So, to start off, what inspired you and motivated you to find and follow your passion in science?
Yeah, so that's a great question. When I was younger, my dad would always tell me to focus on math and science, and that's just because like I was Indian. But the thing is, lucky for me, that ended up working out anyways, because I always knew that I wanted to do something science related, not so much math, because like I just took AP Calc and it was the hardest classes I've ever taken. So I definitely knew that I wanted to do something related to science, essentially my entire life. So that started off kind of wanting to be a doctor, more specifically a pediatrician. And then I was like, okay, wait, that's scary. I don't want to be responsible for people's lives like that. So then I was like, okay, how can I still help people in like a medical way, but not do something like really hands-on like that? So then I turned to computer science and more specifically bioinformatics. And that's like the nice intersection between biology, statistics, and computer science. So that's how I ended up doing all my bioinformatics projects. And Yeah, so I'm just really passionate about helping people in a medical way, but using math and science.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Can you tell me a little bit about your bioinformatics projects and which is like your favorite aspect of the project? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So the first bioinformatics project that I ever did was finding the taxonomy of an organism based off of its genes. And it was like this data set, and I just used machine learning models to find out like would it be like bacteria, or would it be an actual like animal based off the gene sequences, the genetic sequences that were in the data set. That was like a very beginner project, and I think it was a good project to start with. But my most recent one, and the one that I like the best, is my Parkinson's project that I actually did with my partner. And There was essentially three parts to it. The first part, we found the biomarkers for Parkinson's, and we looked at the different proteins that correlate with Parkinson's. And then the second part was using those proteins to predict the severity of Parkinson's. So over time, how worse is it getting, and what's the point where it just starts getting worse, right? So that was like detecting the progression of Parkinson's disease. And then I want to say the coolest part about bioinformatics is the drug discovery, which is actually that third component of our project, is where we actually use an API to look at those proteins and see which drugs actually interact with that and inhibit that, so we can hopefully stop or treat Parkinson's.
That's very cool. That's a very cool project. Can you tell me like a little bit more about your scientific experience with that? Like how was the process of creating that project and what was like your favorite part of it?
Yeah, so definitely that kind of a project I didn't like come up with it overnight. I've done the science fair for 4 years now, and like I started in eighth grade, and I always used to compete. So obviously there's always like that scientific process, right? Although it's kind of different than like the collecting data thing, because there wasn't really a lot of that. This was more of an engineering project than like an experimental project. So um, it's kind of different than what you see when people talk about scientific like process in a scientific project process. So basically, first we found our data sets. After we decided what we wanted to do, we found our data sets, and there was a company online. It's called Accelerating Machines Partnership, and they had a data set full of the Parkinson's disease with the people who had Parkinson's, the patient's data. So there would be the peptide values, the protein values, if they were on medication or not, and the severity of their um, Parkinson's over time. And using that data set, we first, of course, we found the peptides, and all that was done through Jupyter Notebook and Python. So I think for the most part, it was just that we were able to find good data, and also we were able to apply the Python and the other programming skills that we already knew.
That's very cool. Can you tell me more about like your accomplishments with that project and how was your ISEF experience? And like, it sounds like that project was really rewarding and like, it sounds very exciting. So I'm sure you had a lot of fun with it and the experiences that came with it.
Yeah, it really was. After we did that, we competed in our state fair, and we ended up winning first place for physical science projects and then second place for computer science. And we also were given the opportunity to meet with a patent attorney. And then Yeah, we went to ISEF, and unfortunately we didn't win anything there, but I think ISEF itself was just a great experience. I was so excited to see that there were other people my age, even like a little bit older and a little bit younger, that were really passionate about doing something scientific, and that they really cared about making the world a better place. And the connections that I've gotten through ISEF, I think, and the friends that I've made for the week that I was there, I think I'll remember them forever. And I really appreciate that I was given the opportunity to go there.
You know, it's such a rewarding experience. Yeah, it's so much fun. So what other like things do you do outside of science research? What are some of your other passions?
Okay, so I guess my other passion is podcasting. I've had a podcast for a couple years now,
Mhm.
and we talk about a lot of different things. Sometimes we talk about science and technology, sometimes we talk about philosophy, sometimes it's like silly things, like if we want to talk about music, we'll talk about that. Um, but I think I really liked the podcast. It was kind of a COVID. I was bored, and during COVID, and it started out of that. And me and my friend were like, okay, let's create a podcast. And yeah, we were somewhat successful with it. I think we passed like 3,000 downloads
Oh,
recently.
wow.
I don't think that's a lot, to be honest, but yeah, I think we're good at like putting out episodes consistently, and we've had a bunch of students come on and we interview them about their classes and the teachers, and it's a fun thing to do. I think when I'm not doing scientific research, it's such a great way to put something out into the world, create that content, but also it's just like a downtime for me where I just get to chill and talk to people.
That sounds so much fun. I mean, I love listening to podcasts, so I think it's pretty relevant in like, the present world. Um, so what other things have you done to like help our community, like putting your passions together and so forth? And like,
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. So I actually work for a nonprofit. I am on the executive team of a nonprofit called Project Empower, and what we do is we create different software that's for students or first generation low income communities. So the things that we've done so far, we have a extracurricular database where if you're a high school student, about to apply to colleges, and you don't know where to start with extracurriculars, we have like a really helpful database where you can just go in, put in your major, like your interested major, your grade, if you want it to be virtual, if you want it to be a summer program. There's like a lot of different filters and options that you can do, and you can browse through all the different extracurriculars, find one that you like, and get involved. We are also doing a hackathon soon. I think that's like in 2 weeks now, and we have over 100K in prizes, so very excited for that. Um, and then we're also really close to finishing up our most recent project, which is Mindly, and it's a video journaling app. So it's more related to mental health and helping students, like take that downtime and make sure that they're in touch with their feelings before going off and pursuing something great.
That's so cool. I mean, I love the idea of having a database for all of those extracurriculars because I know it's like hard sometimes to find good programs that like fit in with your interests. I think it's a
Yeah,
great idea. Um, so do you have any plans for the future? What are you looking forward to doing?
yeah. So I mean, short term, I'm just trying to get through the summer and get through senior year. Oh my God. I can't believe that I'm finally a senior. It's actually crazy. But I guess long term, like obviously I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna uh, do my master's, and then I think my long term goal would be to create my own startup, build my own startup, become CEO. Not only because I want the role of CEO, but because I think after all that I've done, I want to start something new, especially in bioinformatics. I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and start like a drug discovery or like medicine discovery startup. And it could be like tech, it could be bioinformatics. I think that's really nice. But yeah, I just hope that I can create a startup after college that could help our community. And
Yeah, no, I'm wishing you luck to get through senior year and, beyond. That sounds so exciting. So, do you have any parting advice for us regarding science or really anything?
all right, I think the biggest piece of advice that I have would be to just try. Because when I was like 13 years old, if I didn't try and start looking at like different videos on learning how to program, I never would have been like at this point. I never would have gone to ISEF. I think the first step is to just start, just try, and work through the mistakes. Of course, everyone makes mistakes. Like there were so many times. I think for my science fair project, I didn't sleep for almost like a week and a half. Like I actually just it was so much work, and it was actually really there are times where it gets stressful. Like obviously, like it was so unhealthy for me to, go to school. I have to do my schoolwork and homework, and then also come home and do like all my podcasting stuff and then my nonprofit stuff, and then I have the science research thing. So like definitely when it's amazing to start, but also after you start, that's my second piece of advice, is to make sure that you have good time management skills. Prioritize what you want to do. So in terms of science research, if that's your biggest thing, then dedicate your entire time to science research. And that's not to say that you have to do that, but if that's your priority for science research, go for it and dedicate your time to it. But yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't give up because you messed up once. All the greats have messed up and gotten through.
Yeah, no, that is great advice. So do you want to like give us your contact info or like any just additional advice before we leave now?
All right, sure. My Instagram is Shriya, SHRIYA .jo. And then I guess you can also search me up on LinkedIn. Shriya Jonalagadesh, SHRIYA JONNALAGADDA. But that's all. And thank you so much for having me, Emma. It was a great interview.
Of course, thank you, Shriya. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.